Grüezi ragazzi, bienvenue und willkommen zu Cannabis Scienzia's LinkedIn Live sessions. Today, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Annarita Eva. And I just want to say a few words about her. I just read her intro and I thought it's super cool and that people might want to know. Just a moment, please. All right, you know what? I'm missing that text actually, so I'm just gonna let Annarita introduce herself. Sorry about that, technical difficulties. I was just saying how, we're not high pressure here, so something doesn't work, we'll figure it out. But I'll just let you take over. Tell us a bit about yourself, like what you're passionate about also. And but just before we get going, just want to say a thank you to Viola Brugnatelli, who is the founder and president of Cannabis Scientia, who is the host of this program. And we're very happy to hear Annarita and see what we're going to learn today. Thank you so much, Annarita. It's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, first of all. And thank you for Cannabis Scienza and Viola Brugnatelli. So the title of this talk is Healing Through Expanded State of Consciousness. But before we dive into that, why me? Why I'm talking about this? And so I've been working what can I say about me is that I'm working as a counselor for over 15 years, supporting people, and psychology has always been my passion. In parallel with psychedelics. And on this topic, I go back to over 20 years of studies, personal exploration, training, and collaboration. So especially in the field of psychedelic care, in sitting services. And I have seen firsthand in myself and in the people I work with, how these experiences, when done with respect and proper support, can open powerful path to healing, meaning, and transformation. So that's why I've chosen to dedicate part of my research, my practice, and also my advocacy, we will talk later about this, to building a more informed and inclusive culture around psychedelic use. And why now? Now we are talking more and more about this because it seems there's a mental health crisis, at least in Europe, but I can guess it's in Western societies at large, and depression, anxiety, trauma-related disorder, burnout are becoming more and more common. And traditional treatments often don't work well or don't reach, or they are not good for everyone. So this is why we are talking about expanded state of consciousness, not as an escape, but as a doorway. Specifically, we are talking about psychedelic-assisted therapies. I feel that currently it's experiencing a scientific revival. In some country, these therapies are already available in clinical setting for, like yours, Christina, in Canada. In others, promising research is paving the way, but we still have a long way to go. So when we say healing through expanded state, we are pointing to a radically different approach to suffering, one that doesn't just aim to reduce symptoms, but invite us to explore deeper layers of the mind, and not just the mind, and reconnect with parts of ourselves that we can have forgotten. So I'd like to begin with a quote by Emily Dickinson: "The soul should always stand ajar." It was Michael Pollan. So Michael Pollan chose this quote to open his book, How to Change Your Mind. And I think it's a good way to explore what it means to heal through expanded state of consciousness, because it's a powerful invitation to remain open, open to experience and open to transformation. And again, we can say that psychedelics are part of a new paradigm of healing, and is at the crossroad of science and soul, addressing trauma, depression, and existential suffering. I'd like to think we are living through a kind of a revolution. So not only in how we think about psychedelics, but psychedelics is just one thing, but how we understand trauma and the human mind itself. It's really exciting times, these ones. And so again, I underline, this is not about counterculture or escapism. This is about science and soul finally get along together, or I don't know, like sitting at the same table and talking. So that's my hope, also my wish. For thousands of years, I will go very quick on that, cultures around the world have worked with sacred plants and psychoactive substances as tools to access transpersonal insight. And over the past 20 years, clinical research has begun to revisit these expanded states. And in carefully controlled setting, substances like MDMA, psilocybin, LSD, and ketamine are now showing measurable, lasting effects on conditions that we have long called treatment resistant, like PTSD, depression, addiction, and the list is long. So this is powerful work, can be a powerful work. And above all, it demands curiosity. So healing through psychedelic assisted therapy should not or does not resemble modern Western medicine. So it's like more opening a door within ourselves and stepping into a realm where rationality doesn't rule. And in this new space, we might encounter our unconscious parts. That being unconscious, we don't know until we meet them. So they can be fears, forgotten memories, forgotten emotions. And we can receive insights about ourselves that most of the time are anything but linear. So we will explore how psychedelic therapy can work, how different substances are used in practice, and how people can be helped to integrate these experiences in ways that are meaningful for them. At the end, I will offer an easy prompt that anyone can use as integration tool. And so let's go on. Okay, before, this is the tripod of psychedelic experience, meaning the architecture of psychedelic healing. So before comparing substances and therapies, it's useful to get familiar with the typical structure of psychedelic assisted therapy or psychedelic experience. Because whether it's MDMA or LSD, the process generally unfolds in these three phases, if it's well done. Preparation, meaning where you start building a safe environment, you create trust with your guide, you set an intention, and there can also be a preparation with detox, diet, relaxing activities, journaling, meditation, silence. Then there is the experience, the altered state itself, supported by guides or therapists. And then there is the integration phase. There is the meaning-making phase. So where the healing starts to take roots. And again, also here, journaling, meditation, self-care, and many other tools we have to integrate, and we'll see more later. Now let's see. So this is the typical, the three parts are the typical way, or we call of the psychedelic experience. And in the next slide, so this one, I design an easy to understand, to follow a structure that is used in a psychedelic assisted therapy, mostly in a clinical setting, but also at retreats nowadays. So while there are variations depending on the substance and depending on who's organizing the process, this is generally this timeline is a general timeline that reflects the core phases of safe and effective psychedelic work. Usually it begins with a psychological and medical evaluation. And this is very useful because it assesses whether someone is a good candidate for this kind of work. And it's considered both potential and benefit and risks. So the phase after is we move into preparation, and normally or commonly it's 3 sessions, and it's not just about explaining the drug. It's about building trust, clarifying the intention, exploring the fears, and preparing the inner landscape. So the goal of the preparation is to create a safe container outside and within. Then comes the dosing session, so the actual psychedelic experience, and it lasts several hours, and normally conducted in a controlled setting and with a trained therapist. So the goal here is not to direct the experience, but to support the person in surrendering to whatever arises. And after the journey, we enter in the integration phase, and involves unpacking the experience, what happened, not just intellectually and talking, but also emotionally, somatically, and translating these insights in something that can last, in new habits. This structure, preparation, experience, integration, helps ensure that psychedelic therapy is not just profound, but also safe, ethical, and grounded in the real world. Stanislav Grof, a pioneer researcher and psychiatrist in the field, but also many others, underlines that the psychedelic experience is not just pharmacology, is not just the medicine or the substance, but it's a complex interplay of intention, setting, readiness, psychological readiness, and symbolic process. So within this structure of preparation, dosing, and integration, each substance brings its own qualities, but there is always a lot of overlap, let's say. So we can say that each follow the same structure, but differs in effect, duration, and therapeutic impact. What does it mean? It means that even though these substances work differently in the brain, I'm not getting into details because I'm not a chemist, but psilocybin, LSD, and EMA, and ketamine can all lead to powerful emotional breakthrough. They can lead to altered states of consciousness, of course, and in some cases, people can experience ego dissolution or visionary insights. So trying to say that LSD is more visual and psilocybin is more spiritual can be true, but it's far from being universal. So the inner experience is not only substance driven, but it's shaped by the mindset, the setting, the preparation, the music. Music is the hidden healer, it's been said. And I really believe that. And also the interpersonal dynamic with the guide or the group I'm doing this experience. So all these variables often have more weight than the molecule itself. And while each substance has pharmacological differences, it seems their therapeutic potential emerges more from the context than from the molecule itself. Again. So we can say there's an overlap in these types of experience. We can also say that the same substance can lead to radically different outcomes depending on the person or the moment. So what makes the biggest difference isn't the specific psychedelic itself, but the way the experience is supported. But we can say also that each psychedelic substance opens a portal to inner material, and I can give you some tendencies. But again, I underline many times in this talk, they are not fixed. So let's start with MDMA. MDMA tends to reduce fear, fostering emotional connection and trauma processing in a grounded, relational way. So normally clients and therapists has to develop deep trust and alliance, and the focus is on establishing emotional safety, creating a container where trauma can surface without being traumatized again. As shown in MAPS protocol, the client might revisit painful memories, but without the usual overwhelming fear. So the trauma can be reprocessed in a state of calm awareness. And this is a lot. This is very important. So instead, psilocybin can facilitate symbolic or spiritual insights, can facilitate also emotional release and a sense of interconnection. But it can also bring deep fear or grief. At the Hopkins and Imperial College, for example, their style, clients are supported to work on their intention with psilocybin. And the techniques often includes meditation, journaling, and inner inquiry. And they have this mantra, trust, let go, be open. So it reflects the need to be receptive and to cultivate flexibility, psychological flexibility. And psilocybin can involve vivid imagery, deep emotional catharsis. It can come out repressed psychological or somatic material to the surface, or there can be a sense of merging with the universe, and it often is described as a very symbolic. Let's go to LSD. LSD has a wide range from ego dissolution and mythic imagery to intense personal catharsis, again, like psilocybin, often requiring more time and stamina because it lasts long. And with the LSD as a preparation before entering the session, you can explore symbolic content, dreams. In some retreat, they do holotropic breath work to loosen the consciousness. And so it's said that because of the duration of the experience and the depth of the experience, you can go really in a transpersonal realm, so an archetypal realm, and this is needed. So an inner framework, and a strong one, and a more spiritual existential preparation. I use can because, as I was saying, they can overlap, and there's no fine line. But again, LSD can activate deep layers of the psyche and mythic journeys. Something that I didn't mention till now, it's the dosage, but it's fundamental. So we talk in the psychedelic field. It's been said that there is a psycholytic therapy and psychedelic therapy. So the psycholytic therapy involves low to moderate doses combined with ongoing psychotherapy. So in a way that the client is able to talk with someone, to engage, and to work directly to what emerges. And in this case, the aim is to loosen defenses and allowing unconscious material to come out. Instead, the psychedelic therapy, called the peak model, uses higher doses, and it's facilitate deep, often non-verbal or visionary experiences, sometimes described as mystical or ego-dissolving. So this session can be done less frequently, but tend to be, that's why it's because they tend to be more intense, and the integration afterwards becomes essential. So both approach, psycholytic and psychedelic, can be powerful. The choice depends on the person, on the therapist, on the history also, and the goals that someone wants to reach. It's not about being better than the other, one or the other, but it's about matching the approach to the individual and the context. And so, as I was saying, with all these substances, dosage plays a crucial role. And to close with the fourth one, a substance that I bring today, ketamine, the amount taken can radically shape the nature of the experience. So ketamine is described like being dissociative, can produce a psychological reset or existential distance. It can be helpful for depression or rigid thought loops. But again, for example, with lower doses, ketamine can be calming, emotionally accessible. People can be more introspective. People can talk. So it's much like MDMA. It allows for communication and insight. If there is a therapist, they can talk. At higher doses, this becomes impossible because it becomes dissociative, abstract, visionary, and people can enter what it's called the keyhole. So a deep internal state where you cannot move. And so you are somewhere else. And in this case, you cannot talk with the therapist. So ketamine can be often described as a floating above the body, out of body experience, being less emotional and more dissociative. But you see, at lower doses, it can be empathogenic like MDMA. So dosage is another very important point. So the same medicine can support very different types of therapeutic goals, depending on how it's used. What else I didn't say yet? Of course, of all the psychedelic assisted therapy, there is some rules. The most common are the use of eye shades and music selected very carefully, music playlist that helps direct the participants' attention inward. And without the eyes shade and the music, the stimulation, the external sensory stimulation can easily pull the person into an experience that can be emotionally intense, very rich, but it's more reactive and extroverted instead of being introspective and therapeutically focused on the inside. But again, these are not hard rules, and substance-based distinction are useful but partial. Models help us to orient ourselves, but we must avoid assuming that outcomes are predictable or uniform. That cannot be. So it's what we say, the map in the cognitive psychology, the map is not the territory. A quote that I really love, and it's very useful also in the psychedelic field. So the map is not the territory, meaning that, in other words, any model we create is just a guide, is not the thing itself. So that's why we can say that every person journey is unique. So many people report mystical experience on ketamine and deep trauma healing with psilocybin, or symbolic journey and visions with MDMA. So commonly MDMA is called heart opening. LSD is more transpersonal, but then again, they can lead to any of these outcomes depending on the context. And so to resume all of these, all four substances can facilitate therapeutic mechanism, emotional access, disruption of rigid patterns, and expanded self-awareness. Two people taking the same dose of psilocybin may have radically different experience. It happens very, very, very often. One may encounter childhood trauma and the other cosmic unity and God. Even the inner landscape changes. So a person that has a joyful, amazing journey on their first session may then encounter grief and terror in a later one. So the psyche is a dynamic entity. It's not fixed. That's why I always say that psychedelics can be, as an archetype, they also have this energy of the trickster. You never know. You can be prepared, but you really never know where are you going until you are there. And so what's interesting now is also to talk about the models, or better, the frameworks. Let me go on. Frameworks for understanding psychedelic healing. There are many. In the past 20 years, there has been lots of researches and clinical trials, and everyone has his own method or framework on protocol. And they are, in a way, they are all working very well. So I will go on quickly to some of them. I put all of them in one, so you can see there are many. and probably it's not all here. There are more than this. So transpersonal psychology is the most ancient. Is Stanislav Grof, Cartography of the Psyche, he called that like that, or Assagioli, or bioenergetic. A transpersonal map normally includes biographic information, but even before your ancestors or family, archetypal realms linked to your culture, and psychogenealogy. So it's really emphasized symbolic, mythic, and non-ordinary states. The internal family system instead is you can see the psyche as a composed of parts, like a family inside of you. So there are roles, can be the protector, the self, the exile. It's very common when the therapists are working with trauma-informed psychedelics work, because it has a compassionate dialogue approach. Then there is a big category with ACT, CBT, and mindfulness. So ACT is acceptance and commitment therapy, is cognitive therapy of third generation. CBT is cognitive and behavioral therapy. So if ACT focus on psychological flexibility, it's based on the values and how you do what you do based on your values, and acceptance. For example, is used in the clinical model like the Yale psilocybin protocol, the Yale University in USA. And then even mindfulness, because it includes breath work, introspection, meditative tools like anchoring and visualization, pre and post journey. So these are really used. Then we have the client-centered therapy, Rogers. It comes from Carl Rogers, and is a counseling approach. So it's non-directive, it's empathy-focused, it's mirroring the other, so less intrusive and more, I'm here and I'm just reflecting what you are expressing. Then there is the psychodynamic and Jungian models. And here we talk about shadow works, again, archetypes and symbolic dream work. And it's often used in integration with art therapy, drawing. Also transpersonal. Most of the time people are suggest to draw a mandala, try to express not verbally what happened in the session. And then we have the logotherapy. I put them all together. Logotherapy, meaning making models, and narrative therapy are all the methods that facilitate existential insight and life purpose exploration, in which you can answer to the question why you do what you do, and if you are not happy, how can you change it, especially post journey. But even in preparation, I would do that, because it's good to know from where you come and where you want to go. And then the somatic approaches is a big cloud of somatic approaches. Of course, they focus on the body and on the nervous system regulation. So it's body-oriented mostly. And it can be very good for many problems like PTSD or or trauma, revisiting trauma mostly. Yes, like PTSD is that. And then we have Gestalt therapy that emphasize more on the present moment awareness, on the non-attachment. It's more about developing awareness also of the body, not always in our mind. It's and it's integrated most of the time with body work session. So as I was already saying, these frameworks often overlap and sometimes they contradict one another. But I think that's the point. There is no single model that capture all we need. This is not only for psychedelics, of course, field, but in every, I think, field, the integration of different models can be a value instead of be rigid on just one. And I would like to underline with this slide that in the realm, especially in the realm of psychedelic healing, we must learn to hold paradox, not resolve it. And in this society, we have difficulties on doing this. So it is very tempting to build a system, to find method, to find framework, and find the right explanation and put everything in categories. But these substances, for what they are, they invite us to do the opposite. So to dissolve rigid categories and to step into complexity. It's seen even in our mind is the default mode network or the cognitive cage dissolves when you are on psychedelics. This is it's reflected also outside yourself and in your daily life. So I like to talk about the concept of negative capability. It's a term coined by the poet John Keats, and it refers to the capacity to remain present with uncertainty, with mystery, and with doubt, without rushing to resolve it. So it's an ability. It's that has to be cultivated. We are not very good on that most of the time. And this felt to me very relevant, especially for the psychedelic experiences. So not everything can or should be understood right away. So what the psychedelic ask us, or the psychedelic experience ask us to, is to sit with the unknown, to allow multiple truths to coexist, and to discover that a model can be useful without being final. So they can be all helpful, but not definitive. I would say that the moment we make a model into a doctrine, we stop listening. We are done with curiosity. So the real learning here can be not in finding the right system, but in learning how to let the experience reveal itself without the need to pin it down. So there are so many things to say, and I try to make a short review of the most important points. And I would love to focus especially on the last part of the process. Remember the preparation, experience, and integration. The last phase is the integration phase. Michael Pollan again said, the trip is not the therapy, integration is. And also MAPS team, the team from MAPS, the association for psychedelic studies also emphasize, underline this. So integration is what makes the difference between having a powerful experience and actually a change, a lasting change. Because it's very easy to slip back into the old habits, into the same pattern. We all do it. It's human. It's not, oh, it's my fault. No, everyone does that. It's how we are wired. So that's why integration to me, and not just to me, but it's so important. I like to think of it as a kind of training. Integration, it's like, okay, now it's starting a training. It's an ongoing practice of paying attention to what you do, how you think, how I show up in the world. It's a training in awareness. So it's the more difficult also. It's a more difficult phase because we tend, normally, most people say, oh, I don't need integration. It was a good experience. And so we lose an opportunity. If it was a bad experience, most of the time people look for integration. But again, in both cases, we should focus a little bit more on integration. To make the sense of it. Integration is really to make the sense of it. What happened when I was having this experience? For example, for MDMA, this often involves linking past trauma with present emotion. The way I feel today is linked to that trauma. It's an insight, and now I can see it. And this can help people rewrite the narrative of their own life. With psilocybin, we can have existential insights, and the integration can be, so if for MDMA, when you do this connection, you can talk it out with a therapist. With psilocybin, you can also draw, writing. Journaling can be very effective. It's very important also group integration. And it can give meaning to our life, like a mythology even of our life in the context of our family history. If we talk about integration with LSD, it's said, and I think it's true, it may involve months of reflection, using dreams, artwork, staying in nature, to just listen and be silent, meditate. It can help, and it can take a long time. And ketamine mostly is a dissociative substance. And so it's really helpful for the integration to have a structured session with a therapist, just to go down, to ground yourself and to ground the insights before, and then taking action from this grounding. I'd like to mention about this, the concept of integration, also Frederick Meckel-Fisher, she studied with Groff, one of the first student of Groff, and she's now one of the elders in the field. And she underlined in a beautiful way, in a way that I like, that integration is not just post-processing something, but it's the continuation of the therapeutic journey. She often framed integration as a ritual of reverberation, saying that, I have the slide here, every experience needs its echo, maybe it's better. So as is written also here, integration is reverberation, not just reflection. But what does it mean? So I ask also myself, what does it mean? Reflection, reverberation. So integration is not just thinking about what happened. It's also about noticing what still resonate in your body, in your dreams, in your relationship. So the relational dynamics that you have, how you change position and you change role after the experience. So that's what Fisher meant when she said every experience needs its echo, meaning that it continues to resound in the psyche and in the body and into your emotions and body sensation long after. It's true that we are living in a very in a society that doesn't, not all the time, allow us to slow down and to feel this reverberation. So we are very, it's easy to lose it, let's say, like that. And she emphasized also, underline also, that the psychedelic session is not the goal. It's just a gateway. So as I was saying before, it's a door to a realm where we cannot access easily. And the effect, the outcome, the therapeutic outcome depends entirely on how insights are embodied over time. So again, the body comes back very often in the integration, especially. And it's not a linear process of analysis. It's dynamic, also the integration phase. So, in line with her perspective, in line with Fisher's perspective, I'd like to offer you a practice to help notice the subtle signals that can follow a psychedelic session. You can try this simple practice either at night before bed or in the morning before your day begins. Ideally, it would be good to be followed by a body scan or a short meditation. And here it's written. The prompt is to ask yourself, because questions are the most powerful tools we have from a cognitive point of view. What's still moving inside me from this experience, in my emotions, my body, or my day-to-day life? Or what part of this experience is still with me in how I feel, how I think, how I move through life? And you can, so I go to another level of detail. You can explore this echo in three directions. So you have in mind the three parts. There is body, heart, and life. So what sensation or memories arise when I tune in physically? Where do I feel openness? Where do I feel tension? Where do I feel change in the body? So the embodiment of the experience. Heart, what emotions have surfaced? Which ones wants to be felt, or which ones wants to be nurtured now? Which one wants my attention? Oh, thank you, Christina. And about life is, how is this experience inviting me to live differently? What shifts in how I relate to time, to others, to myself? What are the shifts that I can feel, I can perceive about how my life changes after that? Okay. So you have to look for the subtle shifts in how you relate. And this practice, or practices like this, help us to stay connected to the deeper threads of a psychedelic experience, not just in the moment, but in the days, weeks, and months that follow. And so it takes some effort, that's why I say that it's, to me, it's like a training. It's like doing a training, a physical training without a personal trainer, because you are by yourself every day and every night, and you have to remember to do this, otherwise it can go. One last thing about integration that I think it's important. This was about self-awareness. How can I be more self-aware? This is the first step. This is I think to me, is the most important thing to do at first. But then integration is also about connection. So, because healing doesn't happen in isolation, even when the journey feels deeply personal, the road, the direction is relational. If I work about my issues, I'm working also for the others. This is important to remember. And so we need spaces where people can share, can be heard, can witness other people experiences without judgment, or without rushing it, as I was saying before, no? Without rushing, or okay, we have to go, or rushing, trying to fix everything or to explain everything. So we need communities to hold the space, mostly, for what I call the slow work. And this, the idea of community is spread around the psychedelic people, sorry for the double community. So the psychedelic community really believes in the value of communities, and underline how important it is to find a group of people where you can share this and not be isolated. Okay, so I think I'm done with the integration. I hope everything was clear, and I would like to go on, and I would like to go back, to the idea of why now, why we are talking about this now. And I was saying at the beginning that we are facing a mental health crisis. And so what we need is not just the access to these tools, but also a culture of care, a culture of being able to listen and to share the responsibility also. And most of all, at least the first step, is the need to educate, to inform people. And it's not about convincing anyone, but it's more about building a new set of information that were gone for a long time. And now they are coming back because, as I was saying, psychedelics are here probably before us. But it will be very useful to have the possibility to explore psychedelics and expanded state of consciousness in any way, in a safely way, and with the right support. So, but this will take another hour, so just for this topic. So I would like just to mention an initiative that we have here in Europe that I really wish it will succeed. It's called Psychedelic Care, and it's a European citizen initiative that brings people all over Europe together to push for better access to psychedelic assisted therapy. as I said at the beginning, because we are facing a crisis, and many people are not getting the help they need. So again, psychedelics assisted therapy can be a doorway. It's not the miracle or the panacea for everything, but it can be a very powerful doorway. So what we ask as initiative, I'm the Italian representative of this initiative, and what we ask is to sign, simply to sign. Here there is the QR code. If someone that is listening is from Europe or is European, it can put his signature. It's not a vote, it's just a signature, and we have to raise 1 million. We have time till January 2026. And we ask the European Commission to invest in more research, to support therapist training, and make sure that this therapy can be available in a safety and legally way across Europe. And nowadays it's not like that. So it would be really a big step forward for Europe. So please, if you are listening this, sign the initiative. So to close, I would like to go back to Stan Grof inside. He was saying that these substances are not solutions, but they are tools. So they don't do the work for us, but they can show us the way and the work that we have to do. There is no easy way, I would say, to be more satisfied with our life, more happier. There is no easy way if not working on ourselves. So I would like to finish with resuming all of these, that if done well, psychedelic assisted therapy doesn't just relieve symptoms, but it can restore connection and meaning. This is really important. And thank you. I think I'm done.
Yeah, thank you so much for this, Annarita. This was, it was fascinating. Like, you should have seen me. Like, I was glued here and I was just going like this and like that. It was very, very powerful. And there's a lot of wisdom in everything you've presented. Like, that's something that stood out to me. And it's comprehensive.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I really thought it was very, very important how you mentioned, that we all have a certain responsibility in our own healing journey.
Absolutely.
And that is to show up with curiosity and willingness. And like you mentioned, to understand that healing is a process and these are tools that are meant. And I really appreciate how you highlighted the importance of community, because this day and age, we like the structure of our communities has changed a bit, and a lot of people in day-to-day society, they suffer from loneliness. And so there's medicine, but there's other components to healing that need to be part of it. And in a reductionist society that we have now, we're so used to saying, oh, I have this one health issue, I'm going to go get that one pill and then that's going to solve it, and I'm just going to sit around and wait for the solution. So I really appreciate that paradigm shift of being more realistic as humans, because it is pretty basic. And then just a couple of questions that I have. So you talked about evaluation and preparation. I was wondering if you could tell us about any signs or dispositions that suggest that someone might not be ready for this kind of work.
Oh, yeah, that's a very important point. Thank you. We can use, there are, every retreat or clinical trial has its own way of doing it. But if I can say just one example, to guide a therapist in evaluate if some have can use psychedelics, is the personality psychology, especially the very known the big five traits. Have you heard of it? The big five are, it's a questionnaire that you do, and it tells you the five traits that, and how these five traits that we all have, of course, are low or high. And this can help us to explain why some people respond more positively or with more difficulties to psychedelics. I give you an example. One of the five traits is openness to experience. So this is, it seems to be the more predictive of a positive outcome of a psychedelic experience, because being open to experience means that the fears are not there. You are more curious than scared. And so a higher level, a higher score of openness to experience can predict this. But again, I'm using, the conditional, because again, yes, you can have a guide with that, but it's not 100% sure. Instead, another trait of these five is called neuroticism. On the contrary, if it's high, can correlate with more anxiety or difficulty. Again, this can also be managed during the preparation. So if the therapist and the person are aware that the neuroticism is very high in the person as a trait, personality trait, they can work on that to make the safest way possible the situation. But again, it can be predictive of difficulties and more challenging experience. So yes, we are seeing that personal disposition matters, but they matters are like the setting, the support, the music, and many things. So, and what else? When the evaluation is done, normally the psychosis in the past, dissociation or high impulsivity, you cannot, can be a red flag. But again, there's no anything written on stones. And also a red flag or a signal can be someone that comes and wants to fix everything with psychedelics, and I have to do it. And then it's very common to to be disappointed because it's not happening, of course. So for people like that, with this attitude, the psychedelic experience can be not so significant and not so relevant and a waste of time. Yeah.
I think something I'm hearing you say is the importance of adjusting expectations and being aware of where you are in your personal journey.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why also, of course, also the preparation is very important. I focus more on the integration because in my perception, after the experience, people say, okay, I have done it, so I'm okay. In the preparation, people are more, can have more anxiety. Sometimes even the more grounded person can have a moment of doubts. So people tend to focus on preparation. And it's very important for that reason, of course. Yeah. So as you said, the expectation has to be worked with the therapist or by yourself with journaling to know that you can set an intention, but then the substance can bring you whatever you needs to be, not where do you want to be. I always mention the Rolling Stones song, you don't get all what you need. You get what you, so you don't get what you want, but you get what you need. Most of the time it's true for psychedelics.
Yeah, because we don't know ourselves well enough to be able to understand what it is that's going on inside of us. And we're also very limited. We're limited to words. So that's what, when you were describing the other methodologies that involve somatic, art therapy and those kinds of things, that's also a very important aspect, because we tend to rely on our brain and our brain's interpretation of everything we experience. And I remember reading, I don't remember the name of the author, maybe you can help me out with this, but a book called The Body Keeps the Score.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Very important
So
book.
yeah, I haven't quite read it, but I'm aware of it. But it really created a paradigm shift for me, where it was like an aha moment. Oh yeah, that might explain, and it's an important component of our health, and we need to connect it to the brain and our body, and just learn more from it.
Yeah.
And then just another quick question. So going back to the frameworks that you were listing for us, in your opinion, which one's the best one, if you had to pick?
Yeah, I would say that's a great question, because my mind is always trying to put them in categories and find the best one, because my cognitive side is very strong. But then I remind myself, no, stay in the negative capability and the paradox. So I don't think, honestly, there's one single best framework. Each of the models I was mentioning bring something valuable. And the real power of their real power lies, I think it's also a matter of how they are combined. And I like to think like a recipe. You have ingredients, and if the alliance with the therapist or the guide is very good, at some point you will know which ingredients are the best for the person, and the therapy will support the person to choose for himself. So it's also the client center, it's the basis. So I as a therapist, I let you understand that you have the choice, you have the responsibility, and you have a hidden healer that knows. So this is and so it can be a combination of all these. Of course, I don't know all of them. And normally a therapist knows 2, 3. As I was saying, I'm very into the cognitive. I know something about transpersonal, mindfulness, somatic. I know, but I don't practice. Like I give normally, suggestion to do some work, but not with me, because I know that everyone is, at least, has his own specific field. And so for me, the key, once again, is the integration. So if we blend meditation with Gestalt therapy, or ACT and transpersonal approaches, if we mix internal family system and somatic work, art therapy and body work, these are very creative intersection, and they are all very promising. It depends really what you like best, or what is the best for you. And again, every person's journey is unique. I don't know from the start. We do it together. It's a co-creation. If I have to name one model, just one thing that I really care is the model that is called the bio-psychosocial spiritual model.
I'm writing it down.
The bio-psychosocial spiritual model. It recognizes that we don't heal on just one level, but we are biological beings, then psychological, and then relationals, and then meaning making. We need to know why I am here, what makes sense of it. So all these layers should be addressed. Now we have the medicine. Traditional medicine is just the body, and then psychology is just the mind. So with psychedelics, we have an opportunity to blend all these together and put on top the community and the relational. So I really hope this will be the path for the future.
I think it is. It seems like we are slowly moving in the direction of reconnecting with more wholesome, more integrative ways of healing.
Yeah.
And just tell us a little bit about what viewers can find on your website. I shared it here. It should be in the comments too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What's the psychedelic integration you're giving us here?
Because I'm living in Italy, it's the possibility of working with psychedelics is not allowed. What I offer is the integration. Once you have done your experience abroad or wherever, I can help. My approach, as I was saying, is more into the cognitive and practical way. So journaling and talking therapy, and I can suggest to go and do this. I can be a consultant telling you where's the best place you can go to do this, to do the holotropic breath work or massage or, familiar constellation. That's my way. I integrate lots of theories and models. So I'm not very following only one path. And for now, in my website, there's just a presentation because, again, we are in Italy, and I'm trying to collect my thesis, because I wrote in the past 2 theses. For psychology, for master degree in psychology, and for my master in counseling. Both of them about psychedelics, one about psychedelic emergencies, and one about the psychedelic assisted therapy. And so I'm doing this job now to edit them and make it, like small article instead of the full thesis. It would be impossible to read. And I, being as I was saying, the representative of Psychedelic Care Initiative, the European initiative, I'm doing lots of presentation around to try to open up the culture, to understand what's happening, and to eliminate the stigma that there are about psychedelics, that they are drugs and they are dangerous. Yeah, okay. And so there would be another chapter.
That's another discussion. Yes, definitely, about the importance of the language we choose. In everything that we do. I'm paying attention to that with respect to cannabis, because I'm in the cannabis industry, and we're facing the same problem. Like I was talking to someone and they were saying, oh, what do you mean a consultation? Because I said, I can do a cannabis consultation for you. And he's like, what do you mean it's just weed? And I'm like, well, yeah, but we're trying to move away from that stigma, that interpretation, and just talk about it using more neutral words. And so I'm very aware of the journey that we're facing in that aspect. I just want to tell everyone, before we go, we have to go very soon. Just join us next time, and I'm partial to the next session because I'll be the one presenting on emotional freedom technique, the tapping technique. I've been doing it for almost a year. It's probably the one thing that I've managed to stick to, consistently almost every day. So I've done close to 80 hours now, a total cumulative of 80 hours of tapping on myself. So I will follow. It's very interesting. Thank you. All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Annarita.
You.
If people have questions, they can find your contact on the website, or they can just reach out to us. I'll make sure to collect questions and redirect them to you. Again, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye. Bye.